He was very well received in the place where he released his budget, which was Eustis, Florida, to a Tea Party crowd, and they were very happy to see that he was really, taking the axe to government programs. And in Tallahassee, the reaction was far more skeptical. The legislative budget committees grilled his staff and really gave them a hard time. I think really understanding that while the governor can propose things, they're the ones that have to put it into print and finalize the budget. And what the governor's proposals, in many ways, in their mind, were very unrealistic.
Brent, what was the real significance of his releasing that budget first in Eustis?
Well, Mary Ellen, I think, touched on it. He had a room full of supporters down there, for one thing, that were cheering him on, and these are the people that helped elect him. And with the type of budget that he proposed, I don't know that Tallahassee would have been the most favorable spot for him to do that. He broke ranks, certainly, with tradition, but this was a successful gubernatorial campaign that broke ranks with a lot of traditions, and I think as you go through the legislative session, it's going to be interesting to see how some of Governor Scott's tactics work, and it's going to be a test, I think, as well as on our two new legislative leaders.
David, on the other hand, what was the reaction here in Tallahassee among legislative leaders and others about his going first to Eustis rather than coming here?
Well, I think that he gets a little bit of a pass on that. I think there's a realization that he's playing to, as Brent said, his base. But the reaction to the budget itself was predictably skeptical. It was the opposite of the reaction in Eustis. These are the people who have to actually write the budget and pass the budget. The legislature is always, for as long as I've been around, even though the Republicans have controlled the legislature and we've had Republican governors, they've always asserted a little bit of independence when it comes to the budget. Constant reminders that, we're the ones who write the budget in the legislature, and the governor is just making a suggestion. And this was, however, I think a little more firmly skeptical. There were a lot of legislators who looked at some of these deep cuts and said, especially in the House, look, I got to go back to voters in a couple of years. And you're telling me I got to tell them how much, 10% cuts in education. And the governor can sort of propose almost in a vacuum of realism. He can say, this is what I want to do, and it sounds good, but he doesn't have to actually make it balance like the legislature does. And I think there was some pretty severe skepticism.
Picking up on David's point about the leaders going to the voters, the Senate president is planning to do a voters next year for a U.S. Senate seat. Right. And it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see how he handles his political goals with everything else that's got to get achieved this spring in Tallahassee.